Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, The Crumbs in the Philippines. And we really appreciate you dropping by today and spending a little bit of time with us. And just for the benefit of time and trying to stay on point, we'll get right to it today. I've had many comments about how long it takes me to actually get into the topic, as being sometimes more than 5 minutes, and I apologize for that, but I attribute that to my upbringing in the Deep South, where people have a tendency to just talk and talk and talk. So we'll get right to it. Today's topic is, are Western men still considered the gold standard in the Philippines? And the reason I chose this topic was I continue to get asked time and time again. Not a week, 2 weeks, or a month go by that I don't get asked all the time if I have any brothers, cousins, relatives, friends, or anyone that might be interested in finding a Philippine woman as a wife and moving to the Philippines and things like that. So I know for a fact that they continue to be in high demand, Western men do. And I believe there's quite a few reasons that this might be true, okay? And the first reason is the economic realities of living in the Philippines for citizens here, and especially the young women that live here. The options for obtaining and gaining meaningful income here in the Philippines it's very limited. And it's usually limited to those people that grow up in the metro areas and have access to the best private schools, and they sometimes just get lucky in their jobs. But for the majority of Filipinos that live out in the rural provincial areas, they don't have a lot of opportunities economically to earn a great deal of money. And this kind of breeds the culture of, they get quite creative in finding ways to develop income streams to take care of their families. And I attribute this to all of the things that we see across the Philippines, the numerous sari stores, the overwhelming number of outdoor fish and vegetable markets, and people selling food on the side of the road and things like that. These people, they're very creative and resourceful in coming up with ways to earn money. Okay. Another thing that contributes to this phenomenon is the cultural expectations in the Philippines, which are quite different than we're accustomed to in the West. The unit of family is very strong here in the Philippines, and as a child growing up in the household, you are expected to contribute financially to the well-being of the family just as soon as you're old enough to do so. And it seems to me that this emphasis kind of is placed a lot more heavily upon the female children than it is the male children. And the females, they do have a lot more opportunities to gain meaningful employment. And sadly, I mean, a lot of this is in the hospitality industry, which that's not the intent or purpose of this video, and I'm not going to go into it. But I mean, you can't blame people for doing what they have to do to survive. But that does explain the boom in the hospitality industry. For Filipinas in the Philippines, finding a Western man as a mate that will marry you and move to the Philippines or bring you to their country is kind of like winning the lottery for them. It actually develops a means for the entire family to be taken care of. And I know that's the way they look at it when they approach this thing. And they don't have an issue with that. And as a foreign man coming into a relationship in the Philippines, you have to be aware that this might be one of the expectations that are going to be placed upon you when you come here. And it's very important that you have these discussions with your potential mate and make sure that you work out an equitable solution to these types of issues before you get involved, and save yourself a lot of heartache later. Make sure you're comfortable with, and you know ahead of time, what type of an obligation you're going to be under to help out the family whenever you come here. And it'll really save you a lot of grief. in your relationship, and always be open and honest about this up front. Okay? Another thing that factors into this idea of Western men being the gold standard is the cultural differences between the Philippines and the Western world in general. Age gap relationships are not viewed nearly as negatively here in the Philippines and in general in Asian culture as it is in the Western world. In the United States, I have particular experience in. There's kind of a stigma associated with being involved in an age gap relationship in the United States, both for the young female and for the older gentleman. And neither one of those are favorable in any way, shape, or form. You're either called a pervert as for the man, or you're a gold digger if you're the younger woman. No one can see any like viable reasons for those types of relationships to exist. Whereas here in the Philippines, the vast majority of people, now there are some that do view these age gap relationships in a negative light, but the majority of people that I have spoken to and that I have seen interviewed on other YouTube channels tend to take a more favorable view of the age gap relationships, because they know that this involves pumping money into the economy of the Philippines, which helps in general, and it also improves the life of a Philippine woman and her family potentially. And this goes all the way across society, because the number of relationships that there are of this type in the Philippines there's quite a few. I can't get over how many foreign men that I just come across here in the Lipa City area alone, which is by no stretch of the imagination the largest community of expats in the Philippines. But I rarely go a day without coming across someone I've never seen before, especially if I'm out at the SM Mall or the Robinson Mall or places where a lot of people congregate. Okay. Another factor that contributes to this is the decades-long performance of foreign currency against the Philippine peso. And this goes all the way back to when I first visited the Philippines in the 1980s. The dollar to peso rate back then, the last time I was here as a member of the U.S. Navy, was 25 pesos to the U.S. dollar, which at that time was a great exchange rate. And since I've been here the most recent time, it hasn't been below 50 pesos to the U.S. dollar since I've been here. I know that's kind of redundant, and I apologize for that. But and this is true of the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, the euro, the Great British pound. All of the Western currencies tend to have a very favorable exchange rate with the Philippine peso, which makes attracting Western men much more easy, or it's easier for the Philippine women. And if you've happened to frequent any online dating sites with the idea of meeting a young Filipina or just a Philippine woman in general, you'll see that there are thousands upon thousands of them online looking for potential mates. And then the last thing that really plays into this is the attractive immigration and cost of living that you find in the Philippines. The immigration policies are very friendly towards foreigners, and it's almost hassle-free once you get into the country. The rules are easy to understand and follow. It's not very expensive to stay up to date and continue to be a legal resident here in the Philippines, either as a tourist or a permanent resident. The requirements and costs involved with that are very reasonable. And also, the cost of living continues to be one of the main factors that attracts Western men to the Philippines as a possible retirement destination. It's very possible to come here and live on a modest pension, even Social Security alone, depending on how much you make in Social Security. these things are, it really makes it a lot easier for Philippine women to attract Western men whenever they know that they can find a kind and caring woman to be their partner, and then they can also come and live in a stress-free environment on much less money than they can in their home country. Okay? So in simple conclusion, I would say, are Western men still the gold standard of the Philippines? I think that answer is even much more yes today than it was in the past. And it will only continue to grow as long as those factors, the cost of living, the exchange rate, and the economic situation here in the Philippines all continue to hold pretty steady as they have for decades, that's going to continue to be the case. As always, guys, we really appreciate you watching our videos. The last video we made had tremendous response, and we really appreciate it. We had some people say that I have a tendency to ramble too much and it takes me too long to get on topic, so I tried to get right to it a little bit quicker today. Okay? I do want to give some shout outs for people that sent us super thanks. We're very grateful to each and every one of you guys that have done that for us, and their words can't express how warm it makes us feel to do that. And we've gotten a lot of positive comments on the site. We really appreciate that. You're going to get your few negative ones here and there, and people saying that you don't really qualify to give advice, or unless you've lived here for 5 years, as one gentleman told me. I don't know what that has to do with it, but my experience in the Philippines goes all the way back to the 1980s. And my oldest son is half Filipino, and he's 36 years old now. So it's been going on for almost my entire adult life. But anyway, just a couple of quick shout outs before we close it up today. For those super thanks, we had at Everell Tatum McField OV2MI. We really appreciate it. And I apologize for cutting off the last part of your name last time. It was totally unintentional. It just ran out on the end of my screen, and a few letters got cut off. I apologize for that. And at the Hebrew Messiah Com 8164, thank you so very much. We really appreciate that. And at Ron LaFleur 4246, thank you so very much, guys. Jen and I both, we appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts. And as always, thanks. Stay healthy. Stay happy. We'll see you at the next video. Thanks, guys.